Donalds from Florida.
Thank you, Chairman. This is my third term on the Oversight Committee. We've been talking about illegal immigration and oversight the entire time. I remember we had a group of this committee that went down to the El Paso section of the border. This was back in February, March of 2021. And during that time period, we were at one of the holding centers, and there were these buses that were coming to the detention facility, and they were picking up 30 kids, 50 kids at random, walking out of the facility. And when I went over to question the bus driver that was transporting these kids, border agents told me, as a member of Congress, that you're not allowed to question the bus driver. And of course, people knowing me, I didn't take no for an answer, and I repeated the question. And I was told that this bus of children was leaving El Paso and going to San Diego. And so what was occurring under the Biden administration is that they were busing unaccompanied minors all across the United States for one reason and one reason only. And that was because they did not want the press to see the pictures of kids in cages. They did not want to see our borders being overrun. They wanted to disperse that problem all through the United States. That is the reckless history of illegal immigration under Joe Biden and the Democrat Party. Mayor Johnston of Denver, yes, you lamented earlier that there were 10 to 11 buses coming per day to your city. Did you ever talk to Joe Biden about why this was happening to your community?
Ladies and gentlemen, patriots, freedom lovers, and defenders of this great nation, welcome back to Right View Nation. Today, we are diving into an absolute firestorm of a congressional hearing featuring none other than Representative Byron Donalds, a true warrior in Washington, taking the fight directly to these leftist mayors who have allowed their cities to crumble under the weight of their own failed policies. And folks, he did not hold back. We're talking about one of the most honest, hard-hitting, no-nonsense exchanges we've seen in a long time. He went after them on illegal immigration, on reckless spending, and on their blatant refusal to acknowledge the crisis they helped create. Now, before we get into it, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the truth that the mainstream media won't tell you. So let's break it down. Get ready, because this is going to be one heck of a takedown.
Thank you, Congressman. I both reached out to Governor Abbott from Texas. He didn't respond, and I did.
Why would you reach out to Governor Abbott of Texas when it is Joe Biden, the former commander-in-chief, that opened up our borders? Why didn't you talk to him?
Well, our buses directly were being sent from Governor Abbott in Texas, so that was why we reached out to say we're happy to collaborate on a coordinated entry system. We understand no one state or no one city should bear the entire brunt of this, but let's collaborate. But I did.
So I'm glad you said that, because that brings me to my next point. Governor Abbott and Governor DeSantis, when they started moving illegal aliens out of their states who were bearing the brunt of what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were doing, and they've sent them to Denver, they sent them to Chicago, they sent them to New York, they sent them to Martha's Vineyard. The reason why they did that is because you four could hide behind the realities of illegal immigration on border towns all through our country and on cities and states who did not want to see illegal immigration, but did not have the political representation to go to the White House. And only when it showed up on your doorstep did you get upset. Mayor Johnston, coming back to you, how much did your city spend on illegal immigration? Do you have a round number?
Over the last couple of years, on all newcomers, whatever their status was, it's around $79 million since 2022.
$79 million. Mayor Johnson, Chicago. How much has the city of Chicago spent on illegal immigration?
If you're referring to the 2022 up to 2024 of the buses coming from Texas, roughly the same percentage of the state of Texas, about 1% of our overall budget.
What is that? Because we don't have the city's budget in front of me. Numbers.
It's 1%, and if you want the actual calculation, we can make sure someone.
You're the mayor. You don't have the math in front of you.
It's 1% of the overall budget over the last 4 years.
That's why you're a failing
which
mayor.
is
Mayor
the same
Adams,
number that
how
was
much did the
sent from
city
us
of New York
from the
actually
state
spend
of
on
Texas.
illegal immigration? Mayor Johnson, I already asked you. You don't have a hard number, and if you don't have a hard number, you're not running your city well. Mayor Adams, how much did the city of New York actually spend on illegal immigration?
$6.9 billion of taxpayers' dollars.
$6.9 billion of taxpayer money on a problem that was fostered on the American people. Mayor Wu, in the city of Boston, how much did you spend?
We don't ask about immigration status and delivering city
You don't
services,
ask
so
about
we
how
don't
much
have
money
that
the city
number.
of Boston has spent on illegal immigration?
We
Are you
don't
out of your
distinguish
mind?
between immigration status.
Do you
as
manage
part
your
of our
budget
city
or not,
policies.
Mayor Wu?
That is how we keep
Mayor
our city
Wu,
safe.
do you manage
we
your
have
budget or
the
not?
numbers to prove it. I manage my budget. I have a AAA bond rating dating back 10 years.
So
for
to the city of Boston,
budget.
just understand that your mayor does not care how much of your resources she has spent on people who are not citizens
The city
of
of Boston
the city of
is
Boston.
sick of
I'm
having people
reclaiming my
outside
time.
Boston
Mr.
telling
Bear,
us what
Mr.
we
Bear, I have a
need.
question for you because I understand Cato's perspective when it comes to illegal immigration. I understand that the Cato Institute for a long time has had a standard of actually having open immigration into the United States. Generally speaking, I don't want to get into specifics.
We support legal immigration. We want immigration to be legal.
Let me ask you this question, because one of the great libertarians of the modern era, Milton Friedman, famously said, you can either have open borders or a welfare state, but you have to choose. Mr. Beer, what do you choose?
Milton Friedman said he wanted to allow illegal immigration to continue. I disagree with Milton Friedman's position on that. We should have legal immigration and build a wall around the welfare state, not around the country. That's in the best interest of taxpayers.
And I would argue that under the current system where you have sanctuary cities popping up, it is not possible to build that wall. So America
can.
has to
Absolutely you
choose,
can.
Mr. Beer, you're done. America has to choose between securing our nation or protecting the taxpayer. I choose secure the nation. I yield back.
First and foremost, we need to acknowledge what Donald's laid out right at the start. This entire crisis is the direct result of the Biden administration's open border policies. No spin, no excuses, just cold hard facts. Under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, our borders have been thrown wide open, with millions of illegal immigrants pouring into this country unchecked. And what's their response? Instead of securing the border, instead of enforcing the laws already on the books, they're secretly busing unaccompanied minors. Yes, children, all over the United States, just so the media doesn't catch wind of what's really happening. They don't want those kids in cages pictures from the Obama era resurfacing, so they disperse them, hoping nobody notices. This is not just incompetence, folks. This is deliberate deception. Next, let's talk about these Democrat mayors. Mayor Johnston from Denver, Mayor Johnson from Chicago, Mayor Adams from New York, and Mayor Wu from Boston. These are the same people who proudly declared their cities sanctuaries for illegal immigrants. They virtue signaled, pandered, and told the world they would welcome these people with open arms. Well, guess what? When the consequences of their own policies started showing up on their doorsteps, they suddenly had a change of heart. Denver alone spent $79 million on illegal immigration since 2022. New York has spent $6.9 billion, folks, in taxpayer money to deal with the crisis. And what does Mayor Wu of Boston do when Donalds asks how much they've spent? She refuses to answer. She outright dodges the question. If she doesn't even know, or worse, doesn't care how much taxpayer money is being funneled into this mess, then she has no business running a city. Period. Donalds made another critical point that needs to be repeated. When Republican governors Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis started sending illegal immigrants to Democrat-run sanctuary cities, they weren't being cruel. They were exposing the utter hypocrisy of these leaders. See, for years, these leftists in places like New York, Chicago, and Boston sat in their comfortable offices, smugly criticizing Texas, Arizona, and Florida for mistreating illegal immigrants. But the second a few busloads arrived in their neighborhoods, they panicked. They cried foul. They begged the federal government for help. They didn't care about border security when it was Texas and Arizona dealing with the brunt of the crisis. But as soon as it affected them directly, they started whining. If that doesn't expose their utter hypocrisy, I don't know what does. Now let's talk about what might be the most important point of this entire discussion. As Donalds pointed out, legendary economist Milton Friedman once said, "You can either have open borders or a welfare state, but you can't have both." Think about that for a second. Democrats want a massive welfare state, funded by your tax dollars, while also allowing millions of illegal immigrants to pour in unchecked. But that system is simply unsustainable. You either protect your nation's borders, or you accept that your hardworking citizens will be forced to foot the bill for an endless influx of migrants who in many cases will be reliant on public assistance. Donalds understands this, Patriots understand this. But the left, they refuse to acknowledge reality. So here's the bottom line, folks. America is at a crossroads. Do we continue down this reckless path of open borders, mass migration, and out-of-control spending? Or do we stand up, secure our borders, and put American citizens first? Byron Donalds made it clear. We must choose between securing our nation and bankrupting our people. The answer should be obvious. And to all those mayors who suddenly don't like the consequences of their own policies, too bad. You wanted sanctuary cities, you got them. Don't come crying now. If you agree that America must secure the border now, hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you think of this insane situation. And remember, Patriots, the fight for America never stops.